focused on our first set of heroes, the consumers. We looked in detail at the buyer's problem and we understood how they behave, what their incentives are, and how they allocate their scarce resources. Out of all that, we came up with a way to quantify and represent their behavior using the law of demand and the demand curve. Now, we will look at the second set of heroes, the producers. Let's get introduced to our characters on the producer side of the story. Note that they're all individuals, but in economic terminology, they represent firms because their decisions as producers are production decisions and based on firms' decision criteria. They will themselves behave as consumers when they go shopping for their own needs. But as long as they have their work clothes on, they think for their firms. First, Chandra, a well-to-do farmer with a decent-sized plot of land. He cultivates wheat and employs laborers in his farm for cultivation and harvesting. He also uses tractors, tillers and pumps to help with his cultivation. Second, Rohit. He runs a pizza shop. He makes his own specialty pizzas and sells them in his pizzeria. He employs a variety of workers to handle various tasks like cooking, cleaning, serving, etc. He also uses ovens, stoves, etc. to help in the pizza making. Third is Shyam. He runs a medium-sized shoe factory. He makes a variety of shoes and employs a large number of workers and a large variety of machines. Fourth is Jim. Jim is an industrial tycoon and owns a large car brand and has multiple factories for manufacturing a variety of cars. He employs a huge number of workers and also uses a large variety of complicated machinery as well as robots and other advanced tools in his manufacturing. These are the producers or sellers or firms that we will be considering throughout this chapter and the next two chapters. Everything we discuss in these chapters will be applicable to all of them, even though our examples span a wide spectrum of producers from farmers to large industrialists. So even when we discuss generically or with the help of only one example, you should take the time and think how the same concepts would apply to all of our sample cases. So keep Chandra, Rohit, Shyam and Jim in your thoughts as we go through these chapters. We will understand their behavior, motivations and incentives. And eventually, we will try to quantify their behavior as well. Once we do that, we will have quantified the two participants or the two sides of any given market exchange, the consumers or the buyers and the producers or the sellers. And once we bring our understanding of the buyers and the sellers together, we will be able to understand how the market operates. That is our end goal in studying all this. So let us move on to the producers and put them under the microscope now. Now, important thing to note here is that the producers are just like the consumers. They are also human beings and live in the same planet. They are not aliens with entirely different ways of behaving or anything. So their behavior is very, very similar to the consumer behavior we saw in the first two chapters. So studying producer behavior is like stepping into a mirror dimension. Everything we studied till now applies in this world also. The only difference being that we are looking at everything from the perspective of the producers. That's all. I would recommend you revise the last two chapters well before moving on to this mirror dimension because the tools you learned will be essential for survival in this dimension. So, our question in this chapter is, how do firms behave? They also face the same problems as the consumers. Scarcity haunts them too. And they also have to make choices. And their decision criteria is also the same old faithful CBA. So they also respond to incentives, just like consumers. The difference is in what makes up their incentives or their CBA. So let's unpack their CBA and see once. For consumers, C was the price of the product and B was the utility derived from consuming the product. And their aim was utility maximization or maximize B minus C. Their biggest constraint was the budget, which finally determines their optimum purchase bundle. They could only adjust their optimum bundle by adjusting the QD, that is the amount they purchase. Price was assumed to be a given since the consumers cannot influence the price in any way. So for the consumers, price was a given and consumer behavior was all about utility maximizing. Utility again was an abstract, mysterious and very individual or subjective concept that we could not get into too much detail about. But in firms' case, things are more concrete. We can go deep into the firms and understand them much better than we could understand individual consumers. The firms are less mysterious, which means our exploration of the producers will be more technical in nature and have more graphs, curves and equations. We begin with the seller's problem when we analyze the producers, which is nearly identical to the buyer's problem discussed in the previous chapters. In much the same way that consumers choose the optimal bundle of goods and services to maximize their net benefits, sellers choose what to produce and how much to produce to maximize their net benefits or profits. The seller's problem has three parts: production, cost and revenue. That is, 1. Making the goods, 2. The cost of doing business, and 3. The rewards of doing business. Now let's think. What would be the cost for the producers? C in this case would be the cost of production, right? Production involves a lot of costs, no matter the kind of production. In all these cases, the employees have to be paid wages and salaries, raw materials and machines have to be bought, land has to be bought or rented, etc. So the C is the cost of production. What about the B? What does a producer get when he sells a product? Does he sell it for some satisfaction? No, he sells it for money. So what does he get? He gets the price of the product as revenue. So for the producer, the benefit is the price he receives for his product per unit. And if we consider total he receives from all his production and sales, then it becomes total revenue, that is TR is equal to P into Q, where P is the price per unit and Q is the total quantity sold in the market. And what is the aim of the producer? To maximize B minus C again. B was revenue and C was the cost. So B minus C here would be the profit he gets from the product. So in effect, the producers or the firm's main aim is profit maximization, or maximize B minus C or R minus C. Now the assumption is that the price again is a given. It is the market price, which the producers also cannot influence. Just like the consumers, we assume the producers also can't touch the price. So in revenue, which is made up of P into Q, they can't change the P. So they have to optimize on the Q side, right? That is, they have to come up with the optimum quantity to supply, that is QS. They will adjust their QS according to the price in the market. Note one thing here, no optimum bundle concept in this case, because we are assuming that producers produce only one good, like wheat, pizzas, shoes or cars. So what the producer actually tries to do is two things: minimize production costs and set the optimum quantity he should supply so as to command maximum revenue. So in the end, what can we summarize? C is the cost of production, B is the benefit of production, that is the revenue they get, and the aim is profit maximization, that is maximize B minus C, which essentially means minimize costs and maximize revenue. So there are four aspects to studying producer behavior. 1. How production is done, or what is the production process, which includes how inputs or resources are used. 2. What are the costs of production and how do firms try to minimize costs by choosing optimum production and input usage. 3. What are the benefits of production, or how do firms try to maximize revenue. And 4. Profit maximization. How do firms combine all this into maximizing their profits? Of this, in this first chapter, we are going to see the first part, which is the process of production. In the next chapter, we will see 2, 3 and 4, that is profit maximization, which will include minimizing costs and maximizing revenue and thus profits. Let's see now how production happens in firms, especially our firms.